first topic for this week is consumer choice and utility theory. I think in the other materials I called it consumer behavior. So all gets to the same idea. We're talking about how individuals make decisions about how to allocate their scarce resources. So we assume that people are rational maximizing agents. Right? We said that early on. Right? We assume in economics that people are trying to make themselves better off. Well, utility gets at, this describes what it is that we think people are in fact maximizing. So utility is the fancy word, I don't know if it's fancy, but it's the word we use in economics to describe people's satisfaction or happiness or well-being. So happiness, satisfaction, well-being, right? Things that the things that make us happy, the things that are good, and that can be however we define it, right? So your utility function may look different than my utility functions, right? Different things may give us pleasure, happiness, enjoyment, satisfaction. So that's what we're talking about. Now, I like to say that utility theory is like riding a bike. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, probably if how many of us can ride a bike? I bet pretty much everybody in the class can ride a bike. But can you describe the physics of exactly how it works? Well, I don't know. That's a little tougher. Right? There's a difference between riding a bike and then being able to explain the physics and the theory behind how it works. So that's what I mean when I say it's like riding a bike. We all make consumer decisions all the time. Every day, we have a scarce amount of time. We have limited resources. We make decisions about how to allocate that time and those resources. So we practice consumer choice every day. But the question is, can we describe, the theory to describe that describes what we're doing? Can we explain it with a coherent theory? That's a little bit different. And so that's what we're going to try to do here. And so the analogy I like to use, how do you balance or how do you turn a bike? Usually in a live class where I can ask this question, people will generally say, well, you turn the handlebars to make it go left or right, and you balance it by shifting your weight back and forth. That seems logical, but as I understand it from the physics, and again, I'm not a physics guy, but I've read this example, and as I understand it, it's just the opposite of that. That in fact, you steer your bike by leaning from side to side, by shifting your weight more to the left or more to the right. And that explains why you can, in fact, ride your bike without your hands on the handlebars, right? That people can steer by leaning. And that when we adjust the handlebar for sharper turns, that we're actually just keeping the bike underneath us while we're leaning to go to the side. So we're leaning to make it, to steer it, and then we're turning the handlebar to keep it balanced at the same time, which might in fact be the opposite of how most of us would have thought about it or described it. So you can ride a bike. I could ride a bike even if I couldn't accurately describe the theory behind it. And so that's the same thing with consumer choice. We all make these decisions all the time. What we're going to try to do here in the course of this video, or we might divide it into two, these videos, is come up with a theory to describe what in fact is going on when we ride the bike. So that's our goal. Now, we're going to start with the idea of marginal utility. And marginal utility describes the change in total utility as you make an incremental change in the quantity of a good or service that you consume. Right? So marginal, as we learned before, means incremental. Right? It's as you change something, a little bit, what happens. So that's what we're saying here. How does your total utility change as you have a little bit more of something? And so in sort of a more mathy way of describing it, you could look at it as like this. It's the change in the total utility over the change in the number of units consumed. But it's basically incremental increases. Well, I should say incremental changes. Let's say incremental changes in utility. That's marginal utility. So, I like pizza. So I have a slice of pizza. I enjoy it. have another slice, I get more utility. What's the marginal utility of the second slice, or maybe the marginal utility of the fourth bite, right? We could divide it down even smaller. But that's the idea, the incremental changes. I meant to take this out. I usually have people do an experiment where you eat something and you eat it, so you sit down and you eat 10 or 12 units of something such that you're pretty full by the end of it. And the question is, what happens to your marginal utility over time? So imagine that it's Halloween and you have fun size Snickers bars, right, or Milky Ways or Kit Kats or something. And so you eat the first one, you try to describe, maybe using a scale of 0 to 10, how good it is. And it was really good. How good is the second one? Oh, it's also really good. How's it good as the third one? It's yummy, but maybe not quite as delicious as the first, one or the second one. And so what happens is you consume more and more Snickers. What is the seventh Snickers or the eighth or the 10th or the 12th Snickers do for you? Well, maybe now they're not as good, right? That the marginal utility we get from the additional Snickers is declining. And that, let me change colors here, is what we refer to as diminishing marginal utility. And so this is pretty straightforward. And you see this with pretty much everything. When you're eating food, how about this? If you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, if you go to the campus dining hall or you go to a buffet restaurant, maybe you have a favorite food there. Do you eat only your favorite food, or do you eat a variety of things? Well, chances are you eat a variety of things, right? And that's because even with your favorite food, you might get your favorite food first, okay? Because it's your favorite, right? You get a lot of utility from that. But how much utility do you get from the second or third or fourth or fifth serving of your favorite food? Well, because of diminishing marginal utility, you might actually get more utility from the first serving of a different food than you do from the second or third serving of your favorite food. And that's where diminishing marginal utility comes into play. So it's the idea that as you consume more and more of something, the marginal benefit, right, the extra benefit from incremental units goes down. And so we see this with just about everything, right? The longer you do something, generally the less utility, happiness, satisfaction, enjoyment you get from incremental units. That's the idea. If you go to the amusement park, do you have a favorite ride? Okay, that's great. Do you ride only that ride? Well, maybe not. Maybe you mix it up. Maybe you like your favorite ride the best, but your favorite ride on trip 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 compared to a different ride for the first time, sometimes you decide to mix it up, right? You maximize your total utility by having some of the other thing as well. That's the idea behind diminishing marginal utility. So, how do we decide among the many, many things that we have available to consume? Now, I have a side note here. Why do we have to choose? Well, that's sort of an aside, but that's from week 1, right? Why do we have to choose? Because we live in a world of scarcity, right? We can't have all of the things that we want, there's an opportunity cost. When I consume one thing, I'm giving up time or resources, right? Time or money that I could spend doing something else. So we have to make choices, right? Scarcity implies choice, and choice means there are opportunity costs. We covered that early on. So, but our question now is, how do we decide? And so I'm going to start us off with this hypothesis. We choose the option that gives us the greatest marginal utility. So we look at all of our options. We say, all right, right at this point in time, where I am now, which option gives me the greatest marginal utility? And then I consume that, and that'll maximize my utility. Well, let's see. Let's test this out. I'm going to show you a couple goods here. One of them, the last time I was car shopping, which was a while ago, as you can see from the date here, it was actually in 2010. I was car shopping, and I designed this car, this Porsche Cayenne, on the website. I went to the Porsche website, I designed the car. It is, you can see here, it has the premium package plus the sport package. It's in jet green metallic. I have tan leather on the inside, noise insulated glass, stainless steel skid plate. I put some cool stuff on it, right? You can design it from the ground up. how much utility do you think I would get from this Porsche? And so at the point in time when I was shopping for, for an SUV, I did not have any Porsches, right? So this marginal Porsche, if I got it, would be my first, right? So what's the marginal utility from my first Porsche? I actually think that would be pretty cool. So I made up a word to describe it. Right? Now, let's look at another thing that I could buy. It's a can of Pepsi. How much marginal utility do I think I would get from a can of Pepsi? Well, I described it this way. It's good. It's sweet, it's bubbly, it delivers caffeine, right? That's its primary function, right? So I would like it, but the utility I get from a can of Pepsi would be nowhere close to what I get from the Porsche. So according to our theory, right, our starting theory was that when making a choice, we would choose the option that gives us the greatest marginal utility. So if our hypothesis is correct, what should I do down here? Would I pick the Porsche or the Pepsi? Well, clearly I would get way more utility from the Porsche, right? So I should buy this. Well, all right, here's the moment of truth. Do I drive a Porsche? Sadly, no, I do not, right? I did not get the Porsche. Have I consumed Pepsi in the last decade? I have, right? I try not to overdo it. It's not great for me, right? But it is sweet and bubbly and delivers caffeine. So yeah, I have consumed a fair number of Pepsis over the last 10 years. So what's wrong? Is our theory right and I'm just incompetent, right, at maximizing my utility, or is there something else going on? Well, you're probably on top of this. There is something else going on, right? What is the part I didn't highlight here? That Porsche, about 142 grand. Now that was in 2010, right? Could that have played into why I didn't get it? So sometimes in a live class, people will say, "Well, you can't afford the Porsche," and here's where I don't want to show off, right? I don't want to be, but I could afford the Porsche. I could own this Porsche, but it would come at an opportunity cost. Say the house. So that's not a trade-off I'm willing to make. I'm a little concerned that my beautiful wife and our two lovely children would, if I didn't have the house, I'm not sure. Like if I traded the house on the Porsche, I'm not sure how that would end well, right, for me. So it's sort of a package deal, and I prefer the house and the family over the Porsche. So it's not exactly that I can't afford it, it's that it's not worth it to me. So what's wrong with our theory? Well, it doesn't account for the price. Right? So this is like, if you want to put this in colloquial language, this is like, you could think of marginal utility as bang, right? Right? So think of marginal utility equals bang. But what is the colloquial expression that people are all excited about? You're happy when you get a lot of, not just bang, but you want bang for your buck, right? Oh, here was the price. I just blew this up for you, right? You already saw this part. So we need to account for the price, right? It's not just bang. What we're looking for is bang for your buck. Well, how do we get bang for your buck? We take bang and we divide by price, right? So what we're looking for here is marginal utility divided by price. Marginal utility divided by price gives us bang for your buck. That's also what we could call marginal utility per dollar. Marginal utility per dollar, that's bang for your buck. Let's see, what if you buy the thing that gives you the most utility per dollar spent, right? Per resources spent. That's how you actually maximize your total utility. So I'm going to give you one thing that flows from this, and I think we'll take a break, and then we'll do, I'll break it up to a second video so it's a manageable length where we actually do a little example and work this out. So, and we're going to use what's called the rule of equal marginal utilities per dollar spent. And all that means is that you take the bang from your buck from good A, right? Marginal utility divided by price of A, the bang for your buck from good B, and the bang for your buck, marginal utility per dollar from good C and D and E and F, right? All the way through all the different things that you consume. And so basically, you want to spend your resources on the thing that gives you the most bang for your buck, the most marginal utility per dollar, and you'll do that until the marginal utility per dollar is equal across all of those different things. So what you can't quite see when I made the PDF from this is that an individual will increase her rate of consumption of a product as long as the marginal utility exceeds the opportunity cost. So basically, you're going to pursue, let's say, because we think of this as buying things, but you could also think about how you allocate your time, right? Sometimes on a Saturday afternoon, it's just a matter of not necessarily spending dollars, but allocating your time. Do you do something, do you do some gardening or clean, do a load of laundry? Do you go for a hike? Do you read a book? Do you watch a movie, right? Do you talk to a friend? None of those may cost you money out of pocket, but they all cost your time, and you may not be able to do all of them in one day. And so the question is, well, maybe you can read a book and talk to a friend and do a load of laundry, right? And so the question is, how long do you talk to the friend? Well, until the marginal utility per time spent becomes less than the marginal utility per time spent of something else. So usually we think of it as price. So you pursue as long as the marginal utility per dollar is greater than your other options. And then once it's equal, then you stop, right? And you pursue something else. And so the fallout from that is that the marginal utility per dollar, the bang from your buck, should be equal, or at least roughly equal, across all of the different things that you could buy or all the different ways you could spend your time. So that's the implication there. Can you even read what I just wrote? Pursue as long as the marginal utility per dollar is greater than the other options. I think it's this part that's especially sloppy. Let me try that again. There we go. All right, next up we're going to do a numerical example. I think the video has probably been on for a little while, so let me stop and we'll pick up in a second.